Thank you, Dean. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So welcome, if this is your first time joining us, and welcome back if this is the community that you've claimed as yours. First Parish in Framingham is a welcoming congregation. We celebrate and welcome people of all ages, races, gender identities, sexual orientations, abilities, socioeconomic statuses, or beliefs. We welcome you here in the meeting house or on Zoom or wherever and whenever you may be watching the service in the future. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. I'm Rupal Bhatt. I use she, hers pronouns, and I am your worship associate this morning. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religion that honors wisdom from many sources. We keep our minds open to the religious questions people have pondered across vast times and places. Please be sure to read the announcements in the order of service. Immediately following worship, you're invited to join us for coffee hour in Scott Hall, which is just across the courtyard.
I have two very quick announcements. So the first, thank you if you have signed up to donate items to the refugee families. An enormous outpouring of support for that. If you have clothing for that drive, please feel free to either leave it on the bench outside of my office over in the parish house if I'm not there, or if I am, you can just bring it on into my office today. Reach out if you need to drop it off tomorrow. And also, I draw your attention to the little blurb about our family worship experiment. Next week and going through the 19th, we'll be experimenting with a family-friendly, children-friendly service starting at 10 a.m. And then there'll be something like our current service starting at 10:30. This is a 4-week experiment, so if you're like, no, we need to tweak something, we're gonna run it for 4 weeks and see how things go. You're invited to attend both of these services. It'll be on the same theme, just different camera angles, so to speak.
Please take a moment to turn your phones or other devices to their quietest settings. While beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, cooing, babbling, laughter, and all, and we especially love the sound of your singing, so please join in. Since 1701, people have gathered as this community to rest or recharge, to be challenged or affirm. Those people are like you. You belong here, maybe only for the next hour, but we hope for longer. We're happy to have you with us. I now invite you to take a deep breath in and out. Continue to take a few more deep breaths and to begin to release whatever you need to let go of to be more fully present to yourself and to one another and the sacred of this time and space. A flame within a chalice is a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, to symbolize the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. It is our tradition to begin our worship by kindling the flame of our chalice. I share these words from Mahmoud Darwish. As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Do not forget the pigeon's food. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds. As you return home to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. And as you liberate yourself in metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. And as you think of others far away, think of yourself and say, if only I were a candle in the dark. We light our chalice to be that candle in the dark. Please rise in body or spirit to sing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Please remain standing to sing our song of affirmation and remain standing for our spoken affirmation. Is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another.
thing. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lauren Strauss. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at First Parish, and I say with you all, good morning and welcome to church. I have a couple words I want to say before I start this story. I love this story. I have the pictures up here because the pictures sort of tell a lot of the story. So if you don't get a chance to see them here, come see me later because I have them on my Kindle. This story was written by a person named Gail Pittman, and she is a queer person who did not feel welcome in her church while she was growing up. And a friend of hers invited her to go to the Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco, and she said, I don't know, but then she went. And Glide Memorial Church is the church that this story is based on. The other thing that I want to say, though, is that although this is a really beautiful, welcoming story, there's a couple of places where the language choices that Gail Pittman made were not the language choices I would have made. For example, at one point you will see a child being pushed in a wheelchair, and the words are weak and healthy. And I think she was going for a rhyme kind of thing there, but I would not use the word weak to describe a person in a wheelchair. But we're going with what this person wrote, but I wanted to put that in context. That is not something that we would say now. This story is a few years old. All right, so A Church for All by Gail Pittman, pictures by Lori Fournier. Sunday waking. Day is breaking. Let's go to our church for all. Church bells ringing, joyful noises. Choir singing, laughing voices. Candles glowing, banners flowing. Come, enter our church for all. Weak and healthy, neat and messy, poor and wealthy, plain and dressy. All embracing, spirit gracing, each one at our church for all. Bodies wiggling, mommies reading, children giggling, daddies pleading. Toddlers flailing, babies wailing. There's room at our church for all. Hands receiving, hands connecting, hearts believing, hearts accepting. Feel the Spirit. Can you hear it? It's here at our church for all. Thank you. And now it's time to sing our children and teachers to church school. Thank you so much.
We share a vision of a world where social connection is fostered. And this is what we do when we share our joys and our sorrows. Dr. Vivek Murthy writes, "It is a world where we respect and value one another, where we look out for one another, and where we create opportunities to uplift one another. A world where our highs are higher because we celebrate them together, where our lows are more manageable because we respond to them together, and our recovery is faster because we grieve and rebuild together. So we set aside time in our gathering to share the things which weigh deepest on our hearts." As always, you can submit a joy or a sorrow online or by writing them down in this book that is normally at the back of our sanctuary. We sing "Comfort Me" in between our joys and sorrows and the silent candle at the end, so that we can be held in song, but also so that you might have a song. "Comfort Me" is a little bit of an earworm. It works its way in to your memory. So when things are tough, you might have something to draw on. I begin with the sorrows of our gathered community. I share this from Ben Long, who writes and reminds us that October is Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm thinking about my grandfather throughout the month. We share this note from Marianne Orlando about the passing of her neighbor, Loretta Gardiani. "Grateful for the life of my neighbor who died last week at the age of 98. She was a blessing to all who knew her." Let us now sing the first verse, "Comfort Me." These are the joys of our gathered community. Ellen and Charlie Cormier share this joy. The moving truck arrives midweek, and then we make our drive north to Rhode Island. Hope to see you all soon once we find a new home and get settled. And this from Diane Engel, who writes and shares this joy. "I'm happy to welcome my son Eric, who is visiting family and friends here this weekend." Let us now sing "Sing With Me." Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. And we light one final candle to mark all of the joys and the sorrows that are too great to share. We'll now sing verse 3, "Speak for Me." Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Normally, for the time for contemplation, I share words that come directly from my heart, words extemporaneously created and woven together. This morning, instead, I share words inspired by and adapted by my colleague, the Reverend Kevin Jagot. These are adapted from the words of Rabbi Sheila Weinberg from Amherst, Massachusetts, Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis from Middle Church in New York City, and Dr. Salah Kolaki from Los Angeles, and the president of our denomination, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. As we breathe together, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. To love one another may sound simple, but in moments of violence, it is a practice of deep faith and deeper conviction. May we remember the interdependence of our paths and lives. As we call our collective attention to this violent moment, may we acknowledge that this moment is not isolated from history or context. Two peoples, one land, three faiths, one root, one earth, one mother, one sky, one beginning, one future, one destiny, one broken heart, one God, one love, one humanity. We set our attention on those who have died, those who have lost loved ones, and those who are in danger this very moment. Grant us a vision of unity. May we see the many in the one and the one in the many. Guide us gently and firmly toward each other, toward peace. Violence is not conditional. Cannot kill people and kidnap children, then point to circumstances to say this isn't truly violent. Freedom is not conditional. Cannot wall people in, prohibit their departure, subject them to random attacks, then say that they are free. May we advocate for paths to less violence and greater freedom. May we not allow grief and anger to erase one another's humanity. For Islam teaches peace, for Judaism teaches repair, for Christianity teaches love. Our own Unitarian Universalism teaches justice. All religious traditions call us toward these themes and to nonviolence when we are not warped into tools of war. We are one global family living tenuously on the same human-impacted earth. Let us center ourselves in justice as we call for peace. To love one another may seem so simple, but in moments of violence is a practice of deep faith and deeper conviction. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. May our minds create a vision of the world radical enough to be called holy. May our actions contain the promise of hope and the commitment to justice. May our hearts remember that love is a power that resists all fears. By our thoughts, by our actions, and by our hearts, and by our very own breath, may it be so. I invite you now to sit in the quiet of this place so that you might rest, listen, pray silently, or simply do nothing for one whole minute. May it be so, and amen.
Ellen Johnson Fay writes, "The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It's supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values."
Our reading today is Gate 4A by Naomi Shihab-Nye. We will share it in 3 voices. Wandering around the Albuquerque International Terminal after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandmother wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late, and she did this."
I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. "Shu dawa, shubiduk habiti, stani shwe, min fadlik, shubitsui." The minute she heard any word she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there, just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons, just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic, and found out, of course, that they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up to 2 hours.
She was laughing by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbling mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag and was offering them to all the women in the gate. To my amazement, not even a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to somewhere.
And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person at that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too.
This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost.
This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost.
This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost.
Thank you. So now we will rise in body or spirit to sing our next hymn. Here's how we're doing this. There are actually 3 verses to this hymn. The folks who put together Singing the Living Tradition only put in 2. So we'll sing verses 1 and 2 from the hymnal, and then look over to your order of service to see the lyrics for the 3rd verse. Please rise in body or spirit. each may seek to love and build together. Isaac righting every wrong, the world united in its love for freedom, proclaiming peace forever. Please be seated. And I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. Whenever I hear Gate 4a by Naomi Shihab Nye, it is like a warm blanket. I want to luxuriate in it. I want to wrap myself up in it when days are tough and the world feels like it is too much. And friends, it feels like that a lot. Especially on days like yesterday, cold, raw, rainy, days when we hear of conflict abroad and here. The shared world, it is still possible. And like Camelot, the shared world only feels ephemeral, like it only exists for a short period of time, just out of our grasp, and then when we enter it, it fades away. Now, there are times when I have experienced some of that shared world, the world that groups people together, not past weekend I had the opportunity to learn Unitarian Church Valley, Brian. Now, I certainly did not find that or on the planet. Other versions of this poem mentioned, Naomi should have not talked about we were not. But I was reminded of glimpses of Brian in College Station, we not drove streets, city. We first drove to the site of former buildings and the land that the congregation had for 50 years, which sold as part of the domain highway back. That was the middle of my second day. We returned to see the intersection trend has not been built. Buildings were taken and knocked down, I guess because they knew that real estate prices were soaring. Better get in while stopped by the end of the block. Just sitting in our, I was remembering where classrooms were, kitchen was, office. As I looked at the largest office section, I remembered one that local office. We'd been the invited guest during a kid party. And it made sense for us to invite them over to our house for vegetarian. There was no discussion on whether it was the earliest challenge by meat from the fall. Sanctuary filled, I thought, this is the world I want to share. And anywhere, not everything is lost. Oh, we sang songs, we shared and worshiped together, we lit some candles, and we ate. These are all important across all of the religious traditions. Everybody likes to sing, everybody likes to light candles, and everybody likes to eat. This can be a common thing. I remember the kids of those congregations running around the sanctuary with such joy. And the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers. And 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar, too. Now, when we left that property, we were concerned about the beautiful oak trees that surrounded our buildings. It had been planted by a member who is now long gone. When we thought that the project would take a year or 2 to build a new building, we had people harvest acorns from the ground so that we could plant those trees again as a way of staying rooted. I noticed my new best friend. Now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag. Some medicinal thing with green furry leaves, such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to something. We drove off to near where the other mosque in town was. I had forgotten exactly where it was, so we just drove by the general vicinity. At one point, I forget when, the years tend to blend together, someone had driven by that church in the middle of that mosque in the middle of the night and shot windows near the entry point, which shook the worshipers and the members of the community. It was an aggressive act meant to intimidate. Happened late at night. The next time that they gathered for noontime worship, noontime prayers on a Friday, members from the local community, including a few members from my congregation, encircled the mosque as a show of support. Their safety, especially during their time of worship, was vitally important to us. In the late August noontime sun, somebody, thankfully, passed out bottled water, and yes, even some mamul cookies. She had a sack of homemade mamul cookies, little powdered sugar, crumbly mounds, stuffed with dates and nuts, and was offering them to all of the women in the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. And as you can probably guess, I paused, looked around, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. Now, early in the eminent domain process in this congregation, we knew that the church would need space to exist, physical space to exist during its period without our own building. Little did we know that every congregation would need to figure out what it meant to exist without a physical building during the early days of the pandemic. Now, I had had lunch many times with the local rabbi. He was the rabbi of the Texas A&M Hillel, a Jewish student organization. One of my most favorite and beautiful and sacred and mundane parts of a clergy friendship across denominations is giving the other visiting clergy person a tour of your building. I knew from this early relationship that his organization had and might have space for us in the interim. There was a spare office or two, a sanctuary empty on Sunday mornings, social spaces, rooms available for us to use. So a contract was worked out and items were negotiated on. Before we moved in, a local TV reporter reached out to us who wanted to do a news piece on our interfaith partnership. It was bewildering to me that a news reporter thought that rental space warranted a news article. That news reporter thought that our most mundane and basic interfaith partnership needed to be covered in the news. Then I realized, especially in Texas, two faiths working across borders was not mundane. It was newsworthy. To have two different traditions going at communal life together was novel. And I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. To be sure, there were some moments where we had to adapt. We were guests, after all, of the Hillel. There was a time that we had to move our worship service to the auditorium instead of the sanctuary because there was going to be a bar mitzvah taking place in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning. We had to forego ham during our annual Easter potluck, as well as leavened bread, since that happened during Passover. We made do because it was frankly, pretty easy to make those changes. I wish that there could have been deeper relationships between our two communities, but we stood by when things were tough. We were a congregation there mostly of retirees, and they were an organization that supported undergraduate students. There was a big gap there. As Lizzie and I walked onto the Texas A&M campus, I remember showing up on one of the plazas when a neo-Nazi speaker was going to be the speaker on campus. We showed up at the request of the rabbi and the Hillel. I also remember showing up for a very simple photo op that we were holding signs declaring to someone who had been elected around that time that homophobia and transphobia and xenophobia and misogyny were not Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or Unitarian Universalist values. And again, a photo op made the news. Interfaith partnership across differences was newsworthy. I realized that hospitality was not the norm there. Remember another time showing up with my United Church of Christ minister friend to speak at a panel at Texas A&M that the LGBTQ Resource Center was holding about religion. The organizers had warned us that a group from the secular student organization was there, and they wanted to grill us about how badly religion had treated LGBTQ people. And then my colleague mentioned that he was gay. And I spoke about my community's longstanding support of gay and lesbian student groups on campus. And they were perplexed. They had one notion of what religion meant to the LGBTQ community. It is well-founded, but when we told stories about welcoming, they weren't sure what to make of us. I could tell more stories, and I will tell 2 more stories. There was another time we gathered at one of the Roman Catholic parishes. It was the large Spanish-speaking parish for a vigil for immigrant safety. All members of the interfaith group were invited to robe as clergy, including my colleagues who were women. We were all warmly welcomed by the priest as colleagues. I would guess that that was the first time some women in the audience saw female clergy speaking as part of their ministerial role. I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. I want interfaith cooperation and hospitality across differences to be the norm, not the news story. As I mentioned before, I wanted those relationships to go deeper, for us to need to define our values and our needs, for there to have been some conflict. In a beautiful and broken world, I wanted us to wrestle with what did it mean to be Unitarian Universalists in an interfaith setting. I wanted to know, what did it mean for someone of the Jewish faith, Muslim faith, or the Christian faith to interact in those moments. In a world that seems destined for division, I wanted our Universalist value of an all-conquering love to prevail, to be the motivating value. And that is what I wish to say in this moment. In the midst of conflict at home and abroad, that I believe there is a love that is so great that it can bring peace. There is a love holding all that we love. I rest in this love. The connection in all of these stories is a story that says the ultimate story is not division across religious lines, but partnership across them. Interreligious dialogue is incredibly challenging, and friends, it is so rewarding. The former president of my seminary, Nick Carter, not that Nick Carter, but a different Nick Carter, would often remind us, interreligious dialogue is not about watering down our faiths, not about seeking the lowest common denominator, but rather the highest moral calling. Catherine Cornell, in her book, The Impossibility of interreligious dialogue breaks down 5 essential points for dialogue to take place. The first condition is doctrinal or epistemic humility, which basically says we admit that our way of understanding the world, what we believe to be true based on our religion, is finite and fallible. The second condition is a commitment to a particular religious tradition. If interreligious dialogue is to remain truly interreligious, the conversation partners must be deeply rooted, firmly committed to their religious tradition and open to others. This is where I have to wonder about modern Unitarian Universalism. I think modern Unitarian Universalism makes true interreligious dialogue challenging. We draw from a great many sources from world religions and science, but we have to figure out what is essentially and truly Unitarian Universalist. It's interesting that our sources are all about other religions. I ask again, what would a truly Unitarian Universalist source be? Third condition for interreligious dialogue is interconnection. This seems obvious to me, but we have to believe that someone else's teachings are relevant and interconnected to my own understandings of my own religion. And there has to be some point to this interaction, perhaps a shared commitment to a cause or a shared reaction to external challenges. Fourth condition, we're getting into the home stretch here, for interreligious dialogue is empathy. This means we get into our relationships not from an intellectual viewpoint, but also a religious one, a relational and emotional understanding of the other. It means we move beyond what does the sacred text about a religion say to what does that text mean to the practitioner of this religion. And the final condition for interreligious dialogue is hospitality. This is partially about realizing that the truth of another religion is valid, but further welcoming the practices and the people of that religion. Hospitality is, yes, the last condition for interreligious dialogue, but without it, I don't think you could truly have dialogue. This morning, I pray for peace. I pray for our universalist value of an all-conquering love. I pray that the forces of love be stronger than hate, because that is the only thing that I can side with today. Love. May it be so, and amen. We will now rise and sing the only hymn in our hymnal inspired by science fiction. It's number 163, one of my favorites, For the Earth Forever Turning. And so as we leave this friendly place, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always. May the light hold us always. Amen, and go in peace.